What is up, good people of the internet? It's your boy, Miami Lawyer Daddy, and this is the first ever episode of the podcast. It's actually so new that we don't really even have a name yet. I'm going to figure out the name soon, don't worry, but I'm super happy to be here tonight. I have an amazing guest for not only you guys, but for me, because he is my performance coach. His name is Andrés. I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Andrés.
Preschel. Preschel. Okay,
yeah,
I was going to say
Preschel.
it differently. Andrés Preschel. And we were connected through actually good people of the internet and Instagram. And we have a lot of mutual friends, but we didn't know each other before making content on my Instagram. So I have started working with him, and we are excited to collaborate together. He has his own podcast, and he's going to be helping me out with my performance on the various biohacking fronts and just all the good stuff that performance requires. So let's get started, man. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, man.
Super
happy to be here.
Super excited to have you here.
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit about your background before we get started so we know.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a background in applied physiology, nutrition, and psychology. I went to studied exercise physiology, did a minor in psych, and then I pursued a master's in applied physiology and nutrition. Now I'm enrolled in a master's in biomedical neuroscience through the University of Florida. But I would go as far as to say that while I really value learning in a traditional format, most of my learning has taken place outside of the classroom. Believe it or not, the podcast has been one of the best avenues for me because I've had the chance to connect directly with world-leading experts of, in so many different fields. And not only do I get to learn on the show and ask questions that I'm really curious about and obviously are there to help the listeners, but I get to connect deeply with these people. Joe Rogan puts it nicely. I think he said at one point, he's like, nowadays, podcasting is the best way to have a conversation because you're locked in, you got topics to discuss, there's no distractions, like you're fully present. And I think that this level of presence nowadays really sets the foundation for trust and for a dynamic where a lot of learning and growth can take place. And so a lot of the learning happens live on the show, literally as I'm asking questions and interacting with the guests, but also off the show as I get to connect more deeply with these individuals. So some of them have turned out to be really close friends. Some of them have turned out to be business partners, mentors. So lots of learning there. And then, I also learned through, being a member of the audience myself for, some of the podcasters that I love and tune into on a daily basis, like, Andrew Huberman, Tim Ferriss, Ben Greenfield, et cetera. So if you got the traditional learning as far as schooling goes, that's ongoing. Eventually I want to do my PhD. We've got the daily and weekly through podcasts and content that I love to, digest. And then, I'm also experimenting on myself, and I've been doing that for over 10 years now. And what got me into this to begin with is I didn't want to optimize my health. I needed to, in the sense that I had been medicated for attention deficit for 10 years from ages 8 to 18. And it got to the point where I was taking so much of the medication. It had such severe side effects. Adderall. Yeah, Adderall mostly, but then, Vyvanse and Ritalin as well, but primarily Adderall. I got to the point where I was taking the highest prescribed dose, and I wouldn't tell my psychiatrist this, but there were days where I would take 2 pills.
Was that 160 milligrams about?
Total was like 120, I think. Yeah. At the time, it was like 60 max for Adderall and like 70 for Vyvanse.
Yeah.
I was like on cocaine as a kid, right?
Out,
yeah, and I'll tell you what, like, my parents were managing that. They're both medical doctors. They're amazing at what they do. They're leaders in their space. I've always admired the way that they build this trust and relationship with their, patients, and how rewarding that is to apply science to help others. That's how we grew up at home. We'd have dinner, finally seeing my parents after a long day of work, and they would just tell these amazing stories. My dad's an eye surgeon. He would help restore people's vision with the most elaborate procedures. My mom is a dentist, so she helps people smile. So it's like two very rewarding career paths, especially
as really fixing people.
Yeah, and it's like a very visual thing, right? Like your eyes and your teeth. So anyway, I always knew from a very young age that I wanted to apply science to help others. And while my parents did administer medication that eventually led me to a series of health issues, they did it with a good intention, and they were very, I think they really made the right decision because it genuinely helped me get by in school. I didn't have to go to like a special school or anything.
Right.
I think that would have destroyed my self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, but eventually got to a point where I wanted to take matters into my own hands. I was getting ready to go to college, and I was severely underweight. I was skeletal. I was super anxious.
Well, you can't eat when you're on that stuff.
Yeah, like you're jacked up on amphetamines. So physiologically, and we'll get into this because we're going to talk about sleep today. I was in like a sympathetic overdrive. So my body was constantly under this like stress state.
Yeah.
And as a result, I didn't have, when you're on Adderall and any amphetamine, you see less like salivation, you see less of, blood flow to the core, to the digestive tract. So like you don't have an appetite. And even if you eat, it's difficult to digest food. You're so jacked up. I was taking Adderall XR. So it was, the whole day jacked up on amphetamines. Yeah. And so I was getting terrible sleep.
Terrible.
I would honestly stay up all night playing video games. Like that was like my escape.
Hours. Your body would just shut down probably at 3 a.m. and you'd wake up at 6 and then
it was terrible. Man. And like I was surviving off of Ensure shakes. I don't know if anyone here knows what those are, but they're like these disgusting, terrible,
I remember those
processed like meal replacement shakes that have like all the vitamins, but they're trash. They're so bad.
Side note, maybe the school system should change if kids need to be on Adderall to be in the school system. So that's another topic for like probably 3 more podcasts down the road.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it helped get you through, but there should be a reality where you don't have to. And Peterson talks about this, but like for boys especially, like going and just sitting in a classroom and let's just sit here and like sit still all day. It doesn't really work. And I have 2 young boys now that are my children, and there's definitely some truth to that. So but yeah, so I know a little bit about the Adderall days from law school, like almost mandatory.
A lot of people abuse it. Yeah, exactly.
To be on Adderall in law school. So
and then a whole other tangent is like think about how that kind of sets a new standard right in school. Like the kids that are taking Adderall, they are so much more focused and accomplished now than the rest of the kids who don't have ADD, right? And so now it's like everyone's trying to get on Adderall. I mean, I don't want to flirt with the borders of controversy here, but like it can get very controversial and very messy. The point is that like I was suffering with that. I knew I needed to change. And what first gave me the insight that that change might be possible, because I knew deep down that like life didn't have to be that way. And when I wasn't taking the medication, like on weekends or on breaks, I felt so like authentic and happy. And what I did put my mind to, and at the time, and still today, I was doing a lot of fishing. I love fishing. Like anything that I actually put my mind to, whether it was Legos or fishing or video games, I excelled in unlike anybody or anything else. It was insane. Mm-hmm. So there were some areas, and this is typical in kids with ADD. You do tend to find hyperfocus in some areas. And so I knew that I wanted to bring that to life in a way that really made me feel good about myself, because, when I wasn't taking medication, my professors would basically tell me I'm a failure, and my friends would make fun of me. They're like, oh, you're not on meds today because you're like so crazy today, right? Anyway, I first got insight that change might be possible when I was in high school. I enrolled in a neuroscience summer scholars program at UM. So I went to the UM campus to study neuroscience, and I learned about neuroplasticity and neurogenesis, and that changed my life when I realized that you can change your brain. And mind you, this was a summer break, so I didn't have the medication. So I was on a college campus learning about the brain, neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, and I was in an environment with unlimited access to food, like the dining hall, unlimited access to fitness, the gym. Mm-hmm. I had a social life, and I was sleeping. Dude, within 3 months, or like 3 to 6 months, I gained 30 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
I was confident. I felt like I was bringing my real genius to life, not the synthetic Adderall genius.
You were 17?
This was my junior year.
Yeah.
So it was like 17.
Yeah, you probably felt like a different person.
Oh, absolutely. And mind you, I was getting ready to as I was approaching that summer, I was trying to get off the meds because I had like this, I think it was my ex-girlfriend's family. They looked at me one day. Well, they had been looking at me, and they told her that they were concerned about my health because I was skeletal, man. Like I wouldn't wear short sleeves ever to school because I was so ashamed of my body.
Wow.
The point is that I had the option to take the meds and get extended time for my exams, and I decided, I was like, these exams represent what my career and life will look like in the future. I'm not going to take meds to study or to take this. And I didn't. And I studied my ass off, and I got to the 99th percentile.
Wow.
And that's when I realized I can change some things here and bring my real genius to life. So anyway, that's when I became obsessed. I eventually went back to UM. I went to school there, and I studied this stuff to fix myself. And it was insane that I had to go to school and sit in class to learn the essentials of my body, to learn what my body needed to thrive. I would literally be in class, and I would look around, and I'd be like, I can't believe, like, I'd have these eureka moments. I can't believe I have to be here to learn this. Like, everybody should know this about their body. And that's when I started a movement. At the time, it was Holy Fit.
Right.
It sounds like holy shit. It's like this, to express the eureka moment of learning your science. And then it matured a little bit, and it became know your physio, like know your physiology, discover your science, optimize your life. And this obsession, I mean, I knew from the beginning that if I was this obsessed and if I could do this for myself, then I could help other people do the same. And there's a saying from a guy named Joe Holder, who's a big trainer for Nike, among other things. He's a leader in the health and fitness space. He says, it takes being selfish to be selfless. And so a lot of people, they think that health can be and is objectively a selfish thing, a selfish endeavor, but it makes you a version of yourself that more people are going to love and appreciate, whether it's directly or indirectly, the way that you carry yourself, your energy, your confidence, your willingness to help, your ability to help, your ability to be there, to sympathize, to be mindful, to be present, to be fit and take care of your family. Like there's so many things about health that are selfless. And so I knew, I didn't have the words to describe this early on, but I knew that I was going to be able to help people at the end of the day. And now I have the pleasure of, helping tens of thousands of people all over the world, and working with clients that are deeply curious, very ambitious, and want to use science and discover their science to level up in their lives as I did.
What is the actual definition of physiology? Or
great question, man.
Because I know question. Like vaguely, but I want to hear really what it is.
I'm so glad you asked that question. So physiology is the branch of biology that deals with the normal function of organisms and their parts. The key word there is normal function. Okay. Because in this modern day, we don't really have normal function. So the way I'll put it is like this. Our technology evolves exponentially faster than our physiology. And so there's this gap. And so nowadays we have the convenience. We have such a level of convenience nowadays that it's killing us. Like, for example, I'm wearing these blue blockers right now. These are a transition pair. I have a much darker pair when I need to get ready for bed. But I'm wearing these now because, the sun has gone down already. And I want to start accumulating melatonin to get deep sleep, deep and efficient sleep tonight. So there's a lot of artificial light here. So this would stimulate my body and would take me away from the circadian match that I want to have. Now the sun has gone down. And the reason why that's so important is because the circadian rhythm orchestrates thousands of biological functions. Every biological function in your body, whether it's direct or indirect, is orchestrated by circadian rhythm. So when I'm blocking out this blue light, it's not just for the sake of sleeping better, but it's for the sake of waking up, feeling refreshed, then getting my sunlight in the morning, getting a natural rising cortisol, and then just having this consistency in my physiology. So the point is that normal function, which is in the definition of physiology, is something that we have to actually make the effort to achieve nowadays because there is such a significant mismatch in the life that we live and the life that nature intended.
For, right?
Yeah, and that is literally still preserved in our DNA. So if we understand physiology, then we can essentially biohack and we can add back in what the modern world leaves out and take out the BS that the modern world puts into our body, and return to this way of life, this ideal way of life that nature intended in the modern day. You can still do that. And so I help people do that by understanding and applying their science. I'm a fisherman. I believe in teaching a man to fish rather than giving a man a fish. So I can always tell you what you need to do. But notice how in just our first few sessions together, I'm getting you set up with all these clinical grade biometric wearable devices. We're getting testing done.
Right.
And I'm showing you the mechanisms, how they work. And so that will hopefully give you everything that you need, a deep level of knowledge, intuition, and awareness. In physiology, there's actually a word for this. It's called interoception, which is a deep bodily awareness. If I can give you that, man, you're going to be outfitted for a super long, healthy life, no matter how long you're on this planet, and you're going to be on this planet longer because of it. And that's my goal.
Yeah. No, I've, on the circadian rhythm thing, I never really realized how important it was until recently, because I like to play poker, and the best poker games are usually at night.
Yeah.
And they get progressively more and more exciting as the night goes on, when there's more money involved. And even I started to realize that even without a single drop of alcohol in my system, I could get a severe hangover just from, I guess what I used to call it is like circadian rhythm disruption. So if my normal bedtime was 10:30, 11, and all of a sudden I went to sleep at 4, two things happened to me. First of all, you can't get 8 hours of sleep. Your body just will not let you sleep.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Even if you have a cave to sleep in. I mean, maybe I don't have a cave.
Yeah,
it'd be cool.
This is almost a man cave.
Yeah, but even if you slept from 4 o'clock, even if you went to sleep at 4 o'clock, your body won't let you sleep 8 hours at that point. And then so you're not getting the same amount of sleep, and there's the disruption of the normal rhythm is something where I get you just get a hangover from it. So I know that there's some serious stuff going on there. And I think it gets worse as you get older too. Yeah. So I want to talk about that. I think that, we talked about what your normal protocol is, because I'm a client of yours, so you're going to be coaching me. This would be normally happening without cameras on and without filming. But we're going to go over a lot of sleep stuff today. And then maybe we'll talk about caffeine. Yeah. Because I know, they're related, but I'm going to go over the sleep stuff and what my Whoop has shown me, because I've been wearing it for a few days now.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do we start when it comes to sleep?
So I'll tell you a couple of things. So with this context, first thing I can say is that, and it's been proven through copious amounts of research, when you're sleep deprived, the symptoms are quite literally the same as being drunk. Mm-hmm. So people that are drunk present the same symptoms as people who are sleep deprived. And you can wake up in the morning and you feel like drunk, because if you're having that kind of, let's say, drive and stress late at night, then maybe you finally get to bed. But like you said, your body's is primed to wake up at a certain time anyway. You already get that natural rising cortisol.
It's the worst sleep ever.
And the sleep quality is going to be like crap. And so you're going to wake up feeling like you're just not satisfied. Your body's not going to have what it needs to perform the next day. So we can hack this. There's a number of things that we can kind of throw at the wall and see what sticks. So a couple things. Number one, tell me about your caffeine consumption. And tell me how it might be related to this.
So my caffeine consumption is moderate, I guess I would say, but it's the default is I wake up and I have either a small cup of coffee, but then I have a pre-workout before my gym.
So espresso and then pre-workout.
Either a small cup of coffee or an espresso. Or I've been actually weaning away from that, and I've been going to just a pre-workout because it has a lot of caffeine in it.
Meaning you don't get don't have any coffee in the morning. You just go straight to pre-workout in the morning.
I have Athletic Greens, which has no caffeine in it, and then I'll just have a pre-workout.
And you told me that you're waking up and you're waiting like 30 to 60 minutes before you have any caffeine.
Yeah, I wait at least 45 minutes before I have any caffeine, which I know is supposed to be good for your body.
Yep.
So I'll have the pre-workout, which has about 160. There's two different types of caffeine I noticed on my thing. There's an androhyrus caffeine and something else. I don't know. I forget them, but they have it on. I read the ingredients, and there's two different types. One is 130 milligrams and one is 30. So there's 160 milligrams of caffeine in there. And I have that. And then after my workout, I put a little bit of iced black coffee in my protein shake. So it's probably 50 milligrams. So I'm at 200 milligrams, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then depending on the day, I sometimes might have another half of a cup of cold ice brew
later in the evening.
A few hours later.
What's the latest
by
you'll have?
12 or 1.
That's the latest you'll have caffeine?
The latest I'll have caffeine, yeah. Once in a while, I might have an espresso after lunch at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. But
okay, and then when you do these, let's say these late nights of poker, there's no stimulants?
No, I don't have any because I don't want to.
And you don't really need any. I mean, the stakes get higher.
No,
so you
the poker
naturally get.
itself. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys do just slam espressos the whole night, but no, I don't take any caffeine.
All right, for the guys that are tuning in that slam the espressos at night, I mean, they might need their own health coaching, right? But a really nice and easy swap. And this, I know people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, what the fuck is the health guy doing saying this?
Yeah.
Just give me a moment. You can swap that for a pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The reason is because of the half-life.
Yeah.
So caffeine has a half-life of 5 hours. It'll take 10 hours for about 90 to 100% of it to leave your body. Mm-hmm. Nicotine has a much shorter half-life. I believe it's like an hour, 1 to 2 hours. And so you can take some, stay up, but then you can, get some decent sleep. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you can do to prevent any kind of stimulant consumption. That's ideally what you should do. And then obviously, once you get to bed, the sleep environment should be as conducive to deep sleep as possible. But anyway, let's get back to you. So have you ever, do you ever experience like a crash in the middle of the day after having caffeine or any kind of crash in energy at all?
I typically will have a crash if I have too much carbs for lunch.
Okay.
So I'm pretty aware of that, and I try not to do that because then my day's ruined.
Yeah.
If I have like a cheeseburger and I eat the whole bun, or I could eat some type of carbs, but if I eat too much like refined carbs, then it feels horrible. So that's really, I don't really get much of a crash from caffeine or because I don't really eat sugar too much. But yeah, if I eat too much refined carbs, I feel like it definitely affects me a lot.
Have you ever had an issue with gluten?
No.
Have you ever gotten tested for it?
I have. It's been a while, but I suspected that I had some type of it, but it came back clean. I don't know how thorough the test was, but that was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, so that's something else to explore, and the reason why I suggest it is because, the refined carbohydrate can lead to a significant enough change in your blood glucose where you just have this like maybe like a burst in energy and then like a drop in energy.
Right.
We can get into the glucose stuff maybe a little later. Well, we will because we're going to talk about sleep and I'll talk about the last meal effect and everything. But the problem with gluten is it's in the U.S. It's not the gluten per se, at least not most of the time. It's what's attached, what adheres to the gluten. So like glyphosate, for example. Like I've gotten tested for gluten. I mean, my genetics tested. This is anecdotal, but just to make the point that I have a predisposition for celiac. I don't have celiac, and I don't have a gluten sensitivity. I have a glyphosate sensitivity. Most people do. Crops are sprayed with glyphosate because
that's a pesticide.
It's a pesticide. Okay. Yeah. So that stuff can give you brain fog, can give you really low energy. That stuff it's just crap. And in the U.S., that's almost everywhere.
Standard, yeah.
So whereas if you go to Europe and you have a croissant, odds are you're going to feel pretty good because they're much cleaner with their wheat and flour over there. So the point is that that's something to check. Like if I have a cheeseburger with flour from the U.S., I will just I'll be totally knocked out. Like totally knocked out. Anytime I have gluten here, I'm totally knocked out. I couldn't do a podcast. I can't even go for like a run. I feel like crap. So something to consider. Main thing is going to be the glucose, the glucose variation, especially in the middle of the day. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, typically around what time do you have dinner?
Yeah, so I want to talk about fasting was the other thing too. But so I'm usually working out in the morning. I'm usually working out from like 8:30 to 9:30.
Okay.
Do a little cardio, finish up, come home.
Waking up at 7:30 or 7?
Waking up between 6:30 and 7:30.
Okay, cool.
With the son or the children, and the dogs. And then eating my protein shake around 11:30.
Okay.
And then a small meal an hour or two later, and then a big dinner around 6.
Okay. And so what are some of the main symptoms that you want to address? Obviously, like we're going to get into the sleep efficiency stuff, what you can do, but what are some of the symptoms that you want to address?
So I think for me, the biggest thing is that I've gone through phases where I have super high energy right when I wake up. And I know it's related to diet, but I've never been able to really put my like fingers on exactly what it is. And then I've gone through phases where it's like I don't like pop out of bed. I'm tossing and turning, and I'm like, I don't know what time it is. And then on the flip side, when I have a lot of energy, it's like I know like I wake up, I have a lot of energy, and I could tell you like I know it's like 6:50. It's between like 6:13 and 6:18. Like every day, I know exactly what time it is.
Where you have a lot of
wakes
energy.
up. I have a ton of energy. There's no like going back to sleep at all. There's no alarm clock, and that is like just a priceless feeling. And I want that. I want to make that repeatable.
That right there, and I want to emphasize this. That is a healthy spike in cortisol. That's something that everyone should deserve to experience every single morning. That's how the human being was designed. When the sun starts coming up and it starts at that low angle and makes its way up into the sky, you start to get a little bit of that blue light coming in through the eyelid and interacting with the retina. And all of a sudden, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's biological clock that responds to light, starts to go, all right, cortisol levels starts to rise, melatonin levels starts to fall, they're inversely related. And all of a sudden, you get this natural wakefulness, this natural energy. And again, all these mechanisms in your body start to orchestrate that their function in such a way that aligns with a boost in energy and productivity and flow, all that. So obviously, right now, one of the concerns is that your sleep isn't super consistent because of the poker stuff. So let's return to that for a moment, and let's try to get you to wake up feeling that way every single day. So a couple of things, and I'm just going to kind of go through the basis of like what it takes to have the most efficient sleep environment. So like when you finally get into bed, what can you do? And I'm going to also cover what you need to do working up to this sleep environment. So first thing is blue blocking.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing late, make sure that you're at least mitigating the blue light. So as the stakes get higher, right, you're going to have naturally a more sympathetic response. You're going to be more emotionally invested in what's happening in the game.
Right.
And your body's going to be more in a sympathetic state, more in a fight or flight state. And by definition, less of a parasympathetic rest, digest, heal, sleep state. So what I would like for you to do is to put the blue blockers on so you start to accumulate more melatonin. And while, you have that higher sympathetic activity, your body's still kind of getting ready to go to bed.
Okay.
A really cool effect that the blue blockers have that most people don't know or don't talk about, and this is I can speak about this from my background in psychology, is they start to become what's called a conditioned stimulus. So are you familiar with the Pavlov experiment with the dogs?
A little bit. I remember it vaguely, yeah.
So just to quickly summarize, you have these dogs in cages. The experimenter will ring a bell before they eat, dogs start to salivate, and they get their food.
Right.
And then the bell becomes a conditioned stimulus. So you ring the bell, dogs start to salivate.
Right.
So similarly with the blue blockers, when I put these on, my body already knows that I'm setting the intention to go to sleep. They become the conditioned stimulus. Naturally, even blue blocking aside, my body already starts getting ready for bed.
Right.
And so that will become as a result of making a habit out of wearing them, right? So the point is you put these on, you're automatically making an investment in your sleep. The next thing that you can do is notice your breathing. Breathing, people will overlook this because it's so like simple. They're like, it's like breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breathing is the most accessible way to influence your physiology. I'm going to repeat that. Breathing, the way you breathe, it's the most accessible way to influence your nervous system and your physiology. So right now, for example, you can breathe in such a way that corresponds to greater parasympathetic activity. So for example, nasal breathing. So in through the nose rather than the mouth. Using the diaphragm or the belly, feeling it contracting and expanding. What that means is, number one, with the nose, you have better filtration of the air and you're better humidifying the air. It makes it a lot easier to exchange oxygen once the air gets into the lungs. You have an increase in nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. Mm-hmm. So that promotes blood flow. And nitric oxide is also antibacterial, antimicrobial, antifungal, antiviral. So you really start to filter stuff, in the nasal passage. And then because you're using the diaphragm, automatically when you're nasal breather, you're already using more of the diaphragm. And then when you really make sure to breathe diaphragmatically, you are engaging the vagus nerve, which runs from the brain down to below the stomach. And so when you breathe through your diaphragm, you have more of this activity in the vagus nerve, all of a sudden more parasympathetic state, lower cortisol levels, lower adrenaline levels, and just feeling calmer, So this is going to be super helpful. The next thing that you can do with your breathing is, and this is with for example, while you're playing poker, you should automatically be breathing. So I know you have a slightly deviated septum, right? Mm-hmm. So I mentioned that a good strategy would be to get the intake device, which is, you attach these two little
nostrils out.
Yeah, it basically just expands the nostrils and helps get more of that.
I need to get that.
Improves your intake through the nose. So that stuff is really good. But all of a sudden, you're going to be, this is something that you can do while you're playing poker. No one even knows that you're doing it,
Right.
but it's helping you regulate the nervous system. And in fact, it's going to help you be more rational with your decision making while you're playing poker.
Right.
As the night gets as you get later into the night, more emotionally invested,
Right.
and you're at the end of the day,
Yeah.
which by the way, by definition, towards the end of the day, you're less rational and more emotional in your decision making. You want to be rational when you're playing poker, right? Of
course.
And you want to have your poker face. So very important to regulate your breathing. It's going to help you do that effectively. And wearing the blue blockers just so your body's starting to prepare for bed. You're not going to fall asleep at the poker table, trust me.
Yeah.
And then next thing you can do is you want to be in a ketogenic state, ideally. The reason being is because the ketogenic state is the favorable metabolic state for sleep for a couple of reasons. One that I can cover, and by the way, this means obviously having an earlier dinner to guarantee this. You can also add in exogenous ketone esters that will put you in a ketogenic state, such as Ketone Aid. They have a product called KE4. Most of the Tour de France cycling teams take this. Super high performers take it. I take it almost every day. I actually took it before this podcast. It promotes not energy, but endurance, mental and physical endurance, and it puts you in a state of ketosis. Anyway, being in a ketogenic state before bed is helpful for a couple of reasons, and the main reason is that it shifts something called RQ, the respiratory quotient. When you're in a ketogenic state, you can actually breathe less times per minute to get the same amount of oxygen your body needs to maintain homeostasis. And as soon as, again, breath work, the way you breathe being the most accessible way to influence the nervous system, as soon as you start breathing less times per minute, you can essentially afford to be in a more parasympathetic state. I should have covered this earlier, but just briefly, every time you inhale, you have a slightly more sympathetic activity. Every time you exhale, you have more parasympathetic activity. When you're breathing less per minute, you have slower breathing, shallower breathing, and that means that you're in a more parasympathetic state. So the point is, you want to be wearing the blue blockers. You want to make sure you're nasal breathing diaphragmatically, and you want to be in a ketogenic state. So if you still need to eat something, ketogenic like food, so maybe eating some nuts or some Greek yogurt. You can do something like maybe some beef jerky even. Beef jerky, not the best because the protein can kick you out of ketosis. But anyway, ketogenic style foods, I'm sure anyone can Google them and you got it. Whole foods, not processed foods. Or you can just take the K4, puts you in ketosis, and you'll be set.
And that's, I think we talked about this before the podcast, but putting a solid few hours before bed, eating and going to bed is the reason for that is being more ketogenic.
So you don't want to eat right before bed.
Right. Yeah. You want like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. You want to have
and going to sleep.
Bare minimum 2 hours, ideally greater than 3 hours.
Okay.
You don't want to go to bed hungry either. So it shouldn't be like 6 hours. Like 2 to 3 hours is fine.
Okay.
And that gives your body the opportunity to overcome that postprandial glucose spike, which means your body has enough time to kick up your insulin, and then insulin takes away the blood glucose from the glucose from the blood, puts it in your muscle tissue and regulates your blood glucose levels. And when you have when you're in that 80 to like 100 blood glucose range and you have decent metabolic flexibility, you'll be in a slight state of ketosis.
Right.
The K4 just puts you right in there. I mean, you can't just like eat and then take it and cross your fingers and hope.
Right.
Like you have to still have some time. The point is that it's still very powerful.
Okay.
Anyway, these 3 conditions, if you meet these 3 conditions, you're automatically going to have more efficient sleep.
Okay.
And you're going to ease into sleep better. You're going to have deeper sleep. All right. So that's that. All right. Next thing that you can do, you can actually wear these devices. There's these new devices that are like vagus nerve stimulators. So one of them is called Pulsetto. And there's another one called Apollo. So the Pulsetto is like a, those like earphones that go in the ear and like wrap around the back of your head.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So imagine like that, but for your neck, and I think it's made of like aluminum.
Okay.
Anyway, you put this on your neck, and it directly engages with the vagus nerve, and that stuff will put you to sleep.
Really?
And if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep, you put that on and it puts you to sleep. That stuff it's amazing. It's really effective.
Have you tried it?
Yeah, I have. I haven't bought one yet.
Okay.
I tried it at the Biohacking congresses and conferences, and I love it. I have a lot of friends that love it.
Is it expensive?
It's like $300.
Oh, okay. So it's.
But who is using this is have you heard of Brian Johnson, the most measured man in
Yeah,
history?
yeah. The guy with
that's
the crazy diet.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
for
yeah.
those who don't know, he's like in his 50s. He sold Braintree Venmo to PayPal for like $800 million. And now he has like this crazy venture capital fund
he's
for
claiming
brain
he's
research.
like has the metabolic age of like a 22-year-old, and he's 50 or something like that.
He has like a team of, I don't know, 40 scientists or something. And he measures the health and the age of every organ in his body. And I think his like overall age is like, he has like the physiology of like an 18-year-old, and he's like in his 50s. It's insane. That guy is a vampire.
Yeah.
But he's honestly doing some amazing things for the science of longevity.
Okay.
And he really is a pioneer unlike anybody else. Like, he is the human guinea pig.
So he's
of
wearing
human guinea pigs.
this thing, or it's
so yeah,
his
he wears
company?
it. So he has a very simple, it's not his company, but
Okay.
he has a very minimalist, relatively, especially with him, minimalist style sleep setup.
Okay, he has a what?
He has a very minimalist style sleep setup. So it's like totally dark room, cool room. We'll get to this as well.
Right.
Dark, cool room. And then he's got the pulsetto and like a couple other things. Very, very minimalist style.
Okay.
Anyway, really effective. That guy doesn't mess around with anything that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not
he has
perfect.
all the data to prove that it works. And pulsetto itself, they have a lot of, good data and testimonials and research.
Interesting.
Another really good device that I use almost every day, and I have been for the past couple of years, it's called the Apollo. And it almost looks like a Whoop. You can put it on your wrist or on your ankle, and it vibrates. Things scientifically, how they describe it is it oscillates at a bioidentical frequency. So when you put it on, your nervous system can assimilate it, and you can put it on different settings to create a different nervous system response. So for example, you could put it on a sleep setting, you could put it on a meditative setting, on a focus setting, on a recovery setting. And it was actually developed originally in a clinical setting for patients with depression, anxiety, PTSD. It ended up being so effective that the founders themselves were using it to pitch to investors to stay calm while they were pitching. And then, and then now it's like widely accessible because it's so good.
Wow.
So the combination, I've never used the combination of the two, but I can imagine that it would work quite well. You can use one or the other. And again, that will just help your nervous system prepare for a good night of sleep. What's really cool about the Apollo as well, I don't know if this is the case with the pulsetto, I imagine it can be, is that it shows you what like stress mitigation feels like in a way. So it kind of gives your nervous system a perspective.
Okay.
And it essentially trains your nervous system. So like when your nervous system becomes more and more familiar with these states, you can naturally arrive at them without the use of these devices. So like over time, you're naturally going to get better at
like falling asleep and
at arriving at that effect.
Interesting.
So anyway, that's really good. Now, all right. So now that's like real, like you have to nail those. Once you got those right, like you're going to automatically be getting better sleep. But now let's talk about the sleep environment itself. So your bedroom, a couple things you have to do. Make it as dark as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't, or you don't have blackout curtains, or for whatever reason you can't black it out, or you have a light in there, I don't know. If you can't black it out, or you just want to guarantee darkness, a high quality sleep mask. I love the Manta brand.
Okay.
Total blackout, very comfortable. They have a really high end sleep mask that you can put like these different gel pads on that are cooling or heating. I think it's made of like silver, so it's antimicrobial. Really high quality sleep masks. So that's great. Then making it cool. So the ideal temperature for sleep is going to be anywhere between 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like 17 to 19 degrees Celsius, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Europeans here who are tuning in might make fun of me for that.
That's what
conversion.
I've always liked to sleep at, actually, like freezing cold.
Yeah, like I like it at 62. I like it cold.
Yeah.
And you should be cold. You should feel slightly cold, but you shouldn't be shivering.
Right.
And ideally, you actually want to wear socks, and that's how you can actually manage some of that cold. The reason why you can wear socks and why it can be helpful is because your hands and feet are like fountains of heat. The skin is so thin, and that naturally the little blood vessels are more exposed to like changes in temperature.
Right.
And then that signals to your body, like a change in temperature. So when you have the feet exposed, you might feel colder, and the reason why you wear the socks is to then keep the feet warmer and instead drive that cool blood in towards the midsection. So they can help do that, especially with compression socks. And they can help drive that cool blood into the core. The reason why that's important is because a decline in core body temperature is what actually initiates sleep in the body. So we've spoken about melatonin and the caffeine relationship with adenosine, for example. Caffeine, going on a tangent here, I tend to do this, but caffeine reduces the perception of fatigue in one way by competing for binding sites on adenosine receptors. As adenosine builds up in your body, it creates this fatigue. So anyway, adenosine and melatonin can both make you sleepy. General nervous system exhaustion can make you sleepy. But what actually initiates sleep is a decline in your core body temperature. So that's why you want to set the room cold, and that's why socks can help. It can also help to get some heat exposure before bed to then help your body naturally regulate by driving down core body temperature. Not too much heat though.
I've noticed that whenever I can't sleep, I tend to feel hot, like when I'm like unable to fall asleep. And then what I'll do is I'll just like get out of the covers and I'll just like try and get as cold as possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helps somehow regulate. Is that a
yeah,
thing?
exactly. You want to have, so when you set the temperature down, again, you don't want to be shivering. You want to be kind of cold. Your head should be exposed.
Yeah.
But you want to have layers so that you can add or remove layers as you sleep, so you can, help maintain a decent temperature. But yeah, you should feel cold. And by the way, there are differences between men and women to consider. So women tend to like it, a little warmer,
Yeah.
men a little colder. We also hold more water. Water has a very high specific heat. We retain a lot of heat in our bodies. Women less. We have more muscle, more water. So that's another reason why there might be a temperature difference. Hormonal differences in women can also play a role. So that's something else to consider. And there's actually beds nowadays, like the 8 Sleep mattress, where it divides the two.
I was going to ask you, the Chili Pad or like
Chili Pad, 8 Sleep mattress.
Have you ever used any of these things?
I haven't used the 8 Sleep. I've heard really incredible results. For those who don't know, 8 Sleep is an incredible, like, smart mattress. It can actually track your biometrics, HRV, resting heart rate. There's like a split, I think, where you can adjust the temperature between each side of the bed, for you and your partner. It's a mattress that's made for sleep performance.
Okay.
A lot of athletes will use it. Makes sense. The reason why I don't have one is because of the EMF, electromagnetic frequency concern. And look, that is an area of research that isn't super, let's say, established. But I think that with what we have seen with EMF, I'd rather just play it safe than I mitigate it. So I don't use the 8 Sleep.
Freezing.
Yeah, I do want to upgrade to a natural fiber mattress by, I think it's called Birch is the brand, which is actually a brand. It's the parent company is Helix Sleep, which they make incredible bed and
new mattresses are coming out that are
that stay very cool. Very cool. And so Helix there's a lot of natural fiber mattresses. The reason why I'm gravitating towards those is because, like, we're gonna spend a third of our life in bed. A third of our life. Like, if you live to 90, that's 30 years in bed.
Yeah.
You might as well get a mattress that isn't gonna be,
harming you.
Yeah, that has all these might
as well be optimized.
Like polyester and all this like toxic crap that it's emitting while you're inhaling as you have your face against the thing while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Might as well have something natural, So that's what I want to, eventually invest in. I'm probably going to end up doing that next week or so. Right now, I have just a standard mattress, and on top of it, I have an EMF pad. I have a grounding mat on it. So just plugged into the wall. It has a grounding effect. I keep the room very cool. So you can do the 8 Sleep. You will improve sleep performance. In the long term, I don't think that it's ideal. I think that if you're an athlete and you're traveling all the time, different time zones, and you have to guarantee the best sleep for performance the next day, great. If you're a busy CEO, you have to guarantee the best sleep for whatever performance. Okay, technically, yes. But in any case, whether you get a natural mattress or not, I highly recommend having an air purifier next to the bed so that you don't have to think about, what if, I don't know, something is in the air and it irritates my nasal passage and it takes me out of this parasympathetic state. So in any case, regardless of the mattress that you use, get a good portable air purifier that can clean everything out and, again, help you maintain that deep parasympathetic state for sleep.
I don't know what it is, the last week or two, I've been congested and I've been waking up with a super sore throat, and I didn't used to know what it was. I thought I just had a sore throat.
Yeah.
Over time, I've realized what it means is I'm not breathing through my nose when I'm sleeping, and I'm
so glad
breathing
you
through
brought that
my
up.
mouth the whole night. and then I wake up and I just feel terrible, and it's like a sore throat, and it goes away after like an hour, but it's that drastic feeling first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
like
it
that
sucks.
Sore throat.
And not only that, you also have probably bad breath, right? Because your mouth is all dried up.
It just feels terrible. It's the worst feeling.
Yeah. So and
that's from mouth breathing.
That's from mouth breathing,
right?
Yeah. So if you guys are waking up with a sore throat, with very dry mouth, feeling very tired, even though you were in bed for let's say 8 or 9 hours, that's typically because you were mouth breathing. And again, the breathing is the most accessible way to influence your physiology. We are not designed to breathe through our mouth. The only reason why we can and why we do is when we're in states of like emergency. And so because it's the fastest way to breathe. It's not the most efficient, but it's the fastest. So we're designed to mouth breathe so that if we need to quickly get away from danger, which is the main stressor that we had for millions of years, again, it's going back to our evolutionary design. So it's the quickest way to breathe, but now we default to mouth breathing because we live lives with like this chronic stress and our body's constantly trying to like get away. And so we're stressed out. We start to mouth breathe. It's extremely common nowadays. And if you go to bed feeling stressed, or even if it's subconscious, if you have something you're looking forward to that next week, a big performance or a big, something you have to do at work or with your kids or with your wife or travel, you might mouth breathe because your body's like getting you prepared for that. And it's counterintuitive, right? You think your body's smart enough to like give you the good sleep, but again, your body's like has its guard up.
Right.
And so
so that's stress related.
That's stress. That's stress related.
So high stress
and
leads
it's
to
so
more mouth
so
breathing.
subjective. It's
never
totally
knew
subjective.
that.
Yeah, high stress leads to mouth breathing. And the best way to deal with stress nowadays, because when we're stressed out, we're typically sitting at a desk or with the client on the phone, right?
Right.
We don't have to run away.
Right.
So we don't need to mouth breathe. So we have to be very mindful of the way that we breathe to regulate our nervous system to be as effective as we need to be in the modern day to deal with stress. So anyway, you want to guarantee nasal breathing. How do you do that? Well, when I'm in bed, the first thing that I do, when I'm actually in bed, like closing my eyes, go back to the mouth, to the nasal breathing diaphragmatically, but I do a very specific breathwork protocol. And you can do this in bed. You can also do it anytime that you're anticipating or actually dealing with stress. And this is so effective that like Navy SEALs use this, doctors, emergency doctors and nurses use it. I mean, it's like the most effective way to immediately deal with the stress response. It's a modified box breathing approach. So box breathing is like, 4-second inhale with a 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, and then holding the bottom for 4 seconds. What you're doing there is that pause between inhale and exhale. It creates something called a cardio inhibitory response that slows your heart rate down. And the way to modify it is you spend about twice as long on the exhale and you hold a little longer. So it's actually called 4-7-8 breathing. I forget who made this, who came up with the strategy. But anyway, 4-7-8 is really effective. So you do a 4-second inhale, you hold for 7 seconds, then you exhale for 8. Again, you are spending twice as long exhaling because you have more parasympathetic activity. So you have twice as much parasympathetic activity on top of the hold, which is a cardio inhibitory effect producing, strategy. So when you do this within seconds, you are going to have way more parasympathetic activity. And believe it or not, I've worked with hundreds of clients now over the years. And when I track their data, their sleep data, this actually ends up having the best ROI.
The exhales through the nose also?
All of this through the nose,
okay.
ideally, yeah. Okay. Like you can do exhale through the mouth. That's
I've heard
fine.
of some where it's like inhale through the nose and exhale through
you
the
can,
mouth.
Yeah. The exhaling isn't as important as the inhaling.
Okay.
So the exhaling,
that's where the efficiency is coming from, right?
Exactly. So you can exhale through the mouth. That's fine. So you want to do the 4-7-8. So anyway, this strategy has shown me that the greatest ROI of any other biohacker, any other strategy, any other supplement. This has the biggest ROI. It takes seconds. And it really puts your body in a parasympathetic state.
How many cycles does it take to get the results?
It depends. So again, it depends on your unique anatomy and physiology, on how much engagement you're getting in the diaphragm. Like over time, it should get easier. As you become more aware of your body, as you become more interoceptive and intuitive and more efficient with the breathing, it should get easier and easier and easier. And as you adjust your lifestyle to mitigate any background stress, then you shouldn't even need to do this, let's say ideally, or even when you do need to do it, only a couple of rounds and you're set, right? There's other things to consider beyond the breathwork itself that will help you reduce stress. So anyway.
But like 5 rounds is
5
enough?
rounds. Do it for a couple minutes. Do several rounds.
2 or 3
Practice
minutes,
it. In the beginning, it's going to feel like, what am I doing? This isn't even working. What a waste of time. It's just breathing. As you get better and better, and as you track your scores and then your subjective feelings, you're going to notice a huge change.
And you're doing it right before bed is
do
one
it
of the best times.
Again, like I said, it's anytime you're anticipating stress to prepare your body to handle the stressor. Anytime you're in the middle of stress, and then before bed is ideal. The intake that we got for you is going to widen the nasal passage, automatically make this easier and more efficient. And
mouth tape, mouth breathe.
So yeah,
mouth tape too.
So mouth tape guarantees nasal breathing.
Right.
The reason why, so in your case, you have a deviated septum and it's difficult for you to nasal breathe. The intake should help. Mouth breathing is cool. Mouth tape is cool because it guarantees it, but for some people it may be uncomfortable if like you get up in the middle of the night and you have to get up out of bed, use the restroom. If you don't have the best cardiorespiratory fitness, you might like get out of bed and then you see this acceleration in your heart rate and then you're like, you can't even breathe, right?
Yeah.
So the intake is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
And then
I've done it before. I've done mouth taping before.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird feeling, but
it is.
It's not something that you can't get over. I didn't stick with it. I think I got like shitty tape that wasn't like that good. So I ordered some new one. Actually, I want to try it out, but it was interesting. It was interesting, but I feel like you got to really stick with it to see the benefits.
So I'm glad you said that. You do literally, physiologically, you do. Before I get to that point, a really cool mouth tape that they have nowadays is called Myotape. It's actually by the Oxygen Advantage, which is Patrick McKeown's company. He's one of the world-leading experts in breathing.
Myotape?
Yeah, it's called Myotape by the Oxygen Advantage. So it's tape that just kind of, it's not like regular tape, it just kind of like holds the lips together. So if you need to mouth breathe to get up out of bed, you can. Anyway, the reason why you need to do this consistently is because in the beginning, it's going to feel very uncomfortable. You're going to have what's called greater air hunger. You're going to feel like you need to breathe more. And it's because typically most people don't have the best tolerance to higher levels of CO2. So when you're nasal breathing, like I said, it's a slower way to breathe, especially if you're used to mouth breathing. It's a slower way to breathe, and you're going to have more air hunger because since you can't offload CO2 as quickly and it builds up in the blood, you get the signal to your brain that you need to breathe. So you need to gasp for air. So to make the point, I'll actually go off and describe this extreme. Like free divers and spear fishermen, I do free diving and spear fishing, right? Most people are so impressed by my breath hold time of like beyond 5 minutes. That isn't that I can tolerate low levels of oxygen, really. It has almost everything to do with my tolerance to high levels of CO2. And it's when you have this massive buildup of CO2 that you desperately need to breathe. Okay, so that's like the signaling molecule to breathe. Anyway, when you start nasal breathing and when you start using the mouth tape, you're going to feel this air hunger, and it's just your body adapting to higher levels of CO2. So don't take it to the extreme, but build your tolerance up, and it's going to be much easier. You're also going to get changes in your anatomy and physiology of your respiratory system to help facilitate this, and you're going to get a boost in nitric oxide to, again, vasodilate and get better blood flow in that area. And this actually also carries over to fitness performance. Just sleeping in a more parasympathetic state, and especially nasal breathing, guaranteeing that for the 8 hours you're asleep, leads to increase in fitness because number one, I guess the most obvious thing is you're in a more parasympathetic state while you sleep, which means that you can quite literally derive more gains from your fitness because that's when gains actually take place when you're resting and recovering.
Right.
But the secondary effect is as you gain this tolerance to higher CO2, you actually start to see improvements in what's called lactate threshold. So when you're at that really high level of fitness, when you're like going super hard for super long, and you're at that threshold, like you're maxing out, with the higher tolerance to CO2 that you're guaranteeing that 1/3 of your life sleep, you're going to be able to push harder for longer through that. You're going to be able to boost your lactate threshold, and even your VO2 max can see improvements because the AVO2 difference, which is a component of the Fick equation. This is like I'm going really deep here.
Yeah.
Okay, we could do a whole other podcast on VO2 max and lactate threshold. But the point is that you start to see better absorption of oxygen in your tissues and better utility of that oxygen in the mitochondria. So the point is that you can even see increases in your VO2 max.
So nasal breathing is super important.
Super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I haven't been feeling good the last week, is because I've been breathing through my mouth all night. It's just
and
terrible.
another thing to consider is that, depending on where you live and the time of year that it is, there's allergens in the air, there's pollen. I really recommend that people boost their immunity and their ability to tolerate these by taking supplements such as NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's the master antioxidant in your body. There's a really cool brand.
You told me about that when I first
Yeah.
told you I wasn't feeling good a few weeks ago. That could be a daily supplement?
Yeah, or every other day. I mean, that's generally a really good supplement.
Okay.
NAC is really good. Thorne, I love the brand Thorne. This is not sponsored.
Yeah.
None of the stuff that I said was
Yeah, I
sponsored.
ordered all the Thorne stuff.
Yeah, Thorne
it
is
came
great
in like
because
3 hours too.
Yeah,
amazing.
it's widely available,
Yeah.
and they make it in a GMP certified and third-party tested facility. It's great. Very clean supplements. Thorne is Thorne. And what I recommended as well was the Beekeeper's Naturals Sinus Relief.
Yep.
That stuff is awesome. It has, I don't know if it has NAC, but it has bromelain, it has quercetin.
That could be a
It
daily.
has vitamin C. It can be. It doesn't have to be. But
If you have sinus
you know what, I'm gonna
issues, I mean,
I'll just tell you this. I don't know if it
Okay.
can be.
okay.
I will go as far as to say as I don't know. That I don't know. Working with a naturopath doctor or a functional medicine, they can probably give you a better answer.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's best to take either as you anticipate allergy season, or you start to see some symptoms of poor breathing or a lot of congestion in the sinuses. In that case, take it. And this tends to get a really good response in almost everyone that I recommend it to, because again, it helps you build that natural immunity and it gives you that relief in the sinuses so you can breathe better throughout the day and especially at night. So, and what's cool is like sleeping better just sets the stage for physiological excellence in any kind. Like by breathing better because of the sinus relief, you're also going to be able to recover better from any issue that may be giving you that congestion to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's like a really nice synergy there.
Yeah. Sleep is the first thing to work on. All energy and what we work on in the beginning is all sleep. It's
Yeah.
all going to be focused
Better
on just getting
recovery,
to sleep.
better memory. You're going to wake up feeling refreshed. You're able to refine skills because of everything that happens with REM sleep and memory consolidation. It's like the body can really take care of itself when you're sleeping better.
Before we like get close to wrapping it up, we had said we were going to look at my Whoop stuff. So
Yeah,
do you wanna,
for sure.
Do you want to see? Because I've been wearing it now
look
for
at
4
this.
days.
98% recovery,
but
100%
also-
sleep. Dude, 106 HRV. That's amazing.
Is that good?
That's really good.
But also something that I didn't know the thing told me I got amazing sleep the 2 nights that I had like alcohol, and I don't drink. Like I think I want to just never drink again.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. And the less you drink, the stronger alcohol is, and the more it affects you.
Yeah, you're more sensitive.
So-
you have less of liver enzymes, so you're more sensitive.
I had 2 nights of like very bad sleep that I perceived to be bad sleep, and the Whoop told me that I got like good sleep. So I was like,
So check it out. So right now you're establishing these baselines and you're competing against yourself.
right.
Right. So the Whoop, just based on what the 4 days, what you've experienced throughout the 4 days, that's the benchmark. So as you get more and more and more data, you'll have a better, more accurate benchmark to test, and you're constantly competing against yourself. So like I think the rolling average is like 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see continued improvements, but it's like the point is that you're competing against yourself. So it's like,
So because it's brand new, it's like it's maybe not fair to even use that as a data point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if like you had severe sleep disturbances, they would come up and they'd probably tell you, oh, you could probably sleep better. But like, let me actually look at the data itself. Let me look at the percentages.
Look at Saturday night, which I guess I forget how Whoop does it, but Saturday night we went out. My friend bought a bottle of wine. Brought a really good bottle of wine, which tends to fuck me up.
What was it? What kind of wine?
A Chianti.
Okay.
And he has a big wine collection. But
if it's not Bordeaux, I don't want to talk.
And I drank a bunch, and for me, a bunch is like 2 or 3 glasses.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot for me.
Let's see.
And I've definitely woke up hot with like an increased heart rate, and I couldn't fall asleep for a while, which is the normal thing that happens to me when I drink too much. But, and then I always regret it. But
I mean, so, alcohol is a toxin and your body's going to be very preoccupied with dealing with that.
Right.
And that's, so your HRV will typically plummet, your resting heart rate goes up, your deep sleep will, be constricted, and you have typically more REM, or light sleep. So
yeah, it told me I had more light sleep. I think it did tell me that I had less good sleep than like whatever the other nights were.
So look, I'll tell you what, man. What's cool to see here is you generally have good sleep. Do you wake up in the middle of the night at all?
I do, but it's not from my own. It's from the kids and the dogs. The kids mostly, like waking up, coming in our room, screaming, crying, which can't hack your way around that. But
yeah, so I'll tell you what. So like right here, I'm looking at the sleep percentages, and you have a really good percentage of deep sleep. But what I'm curious about is, based on like your unique genetics and lifestyle, do you need even more, an even greater percentage of deep sleep to actually feel and perform at your peak? And this is where we really get into the subjectivity of data. So like this is giving me objective data, but you're telling me that, it's saying you got good scores, but you don't feel the best. So again, this is where we have to be very considerate towards your unique subjective feelings and emotions, and keep you competing against yourself to unlock more.
Right.
So I'd be curious to look at this, let's say a month from now, and see how these percentages change and how
we got to see the trends, basically.
What I will say is I think you picked the best career for yourself, because your HRV is really high. I mean, again, that's definitely the most objective measure here. It's the most personal. It really depends. It depends on things like your age, your genetics, your life. So many different confounding variables that influence it. But you have a really high HRV, and people with high HRV are really good at tolerating careers where the circumstances and the challenges and the stresses constantly changing. So if you had very, very low, very poor HRV, I would say, hey man, you probably need a more consistent. I would never do that. I would try to get you to optimize with
moving
the
that
current
direction.
standards.
No, going to court and taking cases to trial and asking for big amounts of money is definitely high stress, and it's a lot of variables. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll tell you what, I'm very happy with this. Let me look at your resting heart rate. Let's see here.
I think it's like 55. I thought it was lower. It used to be like in the mid 40s, but lately it's been
overview. Key statistics. So it says your average HRV is 75. So today you were 106. Dude, did you wake up feeling pretty good today?
I woke up feeling better today, yeah.
Yeah, your HRV was really high today. Let me see where
I did cardio today too. Does that affect that?
It can. There's just, if you want to know the best answer to that, I have to ask you like 20 more questions about your day. But it can, yeah. Man, let me see. I know we're like out of time. I do want to.
Yeah, but this is the last thing I wanted to cover.
Cool. Let me see. Where's the heart rate data? Why isn't it? Oh, here it is. Okay, so it says here that your average heart rate is 75. However, I don't know if this is just an average throughout the whole day or if it's like you're resting. Oh, here it is, resting. Resting is 59. And right now, or today was 52 average. So yeah, your average is, so here we have, for example, on Friday, average is 56, resting heart rate. On Saturday, 62. Sunday, 66. Today, 52. So we can get that. We will definitely get that lower by training and recovering.
The 2 days after I drank, it was higher. That makes sense, right?
Again, lots of confounding variables. I can say yes, I can say no.
Yeah.
But we can definitely get this average down. So as we train to increase your VO2 max, by definition, you can improve the contractility of the heart, meaning for the same, what's called the cardiac output, for the same amount of blood leaving the heart every minute, because the heart's contracting harder, you get more blood out with every contraction, you can quite literally afford a lower resting heart rate to get the same amount of blood out.
Yeah, it just the pump becomes more efficient.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's how we're going to see a decrease in your resting heart rate. And we can probably end up getting it down to like even below 50. Like that would be ideal.
I think I've had it below 50 before when I was in like the best shape I've ever been in.
Yeah. So we can do that.
It's pretty much directly related with like,
100%.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And VO2 max is the most highly correlated metric with longevity because it assumes so many different things about your physiology. So VO2 max, and I alluded to this earlier, the Fick equation is a really simple way to describe VO2 max. So your maximum oxygen consumption is equal to your cardiac output, which is your stroke volume, blood leaving the heart with every contraction, times your heart rate, beats per minute, times AVO2 difference in oxygen saturation between your atrial and venous blood. So the amount that you absorbed. So essentially how much blood is leaving the heart, and multiply that by oxygen absorbed, total oxygen consumed. And so when you exercise and when you live a healthy lifestyle, you're going to have better cardiorespiratory function, and then your body, what's actually receiving the oxygen, can better receive the oxygen. If you have a lot of inflammation in your body, a lot of plaque in the arteries, your body's not going to do a very good job at delivering blood or absorbing oxygen and nutrients from the blood. If you have poor mitochondrial health, then maybe the oxygen will arrive there, but the mitochondria are not going to use it effectively. So like there's so many different things that give you a high VO2 max, so many different things in your physiology. So if you look at it as this longevity metric, I mean, it makes total sense as to why it's used as such a valuable reference. And there's a few other metrics, like grip strength, for example, is another really good metric that we're going to get into because to really take your body to its limit and engage these large groups of muscle that will give you the aesthetic and the burning calories and the cardiovascular demand that you want to see for these improvements, if your wrists give out first, you can't capitalize on those bigger muscles.
Be
so
a limiting factor in gaining strength. Interesting.
So anyway, as you can tell, there's a lot more for us to discuss.
Yeah,
but I think this was a
I'm
really
gonna focus
good.
all my energy on all the sleep related stuff.
Yeah.
See how good I can get my sleep scores and get my deep sleep up and get my heart rate down, and we'll keep it going. So we'll do another status check in about a week, right?
Cool. Yeah. What do you think so far?
I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. I don't know. I don't have like a specific goal of like where, like a weight. I don't have a weight goal. I don't have even a like body fat goal, although I have like an obvious like range of where I think I probably would like to be. But I just want to just keep getting in better and better shape and just feeling better and better. And, you know, we didn't talk about this today on the podcast, but anyone who followed me knows I've had three back surgeries. And my biggest goal is to just like get in such good shape that my back pain just like slowly just goes away. I hope that can happen. I believe it can happen. So, just focusing all my energy on my sleep. I think I'm a big proponent of just like not trying to do like a bunch of stuff at the same time. Like I'm going to focus all my energy on like sleep.
Yep.
I'm already exercising. I already do cardio. I already do weights.
We're going to refine. We're going to get into that.
I already do all that stuff. But for now, I'm just focused on all my energy on just making sure that I sleep as well as possible and take it from there. So
awesome, man.
I'm super pumped. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
Exciting times, and we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is like we want to try and do everything possible to like we want to pull all these natural levers in your physiology to help your body take care of itself, because your body is designed with that level of intelligence. Your body is designed to recover, to heal, to reduce pain, inflammation. Like you can do this. Like you can actually do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on medication. Like again, you know, work with your doctor.
Yeah,
and this is not medical advice, but we can certainly look at what the modern world leaves out, and we can add this stuff intelligently back in to live a biologically consistent lifestyle that sets the stage for our body to take care of itself. And so let's do that first through sleep and see how it influences the rest of your health and well-being. And then we'll take a deep dive on things like your fitness program, your nutrition, your mind, et cetera. So
supplements, all that stuff.
All that good stuff.
All right. We'll wrap it up. Thanks again, Andrés.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
That's great.
Dude, you got
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was a physiology lesson.
Did we do an hour, or we did a little bit more, or pretty much an hour?
Hour and like
10?
15 minutes.
Okay.
Amazing.
Sick.
It's dope. I just look at a lot of different factors while I'm shooting.
Yeah.
And I can't, I'm just like, I can't stand that noise. Like, I can hear it.
Really?
What noise?
But can you edit it out?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. I have audio software that you just punch in the thing and you say, take out the buzz or whatever, and it takes
It's like
it out.
AI-driven stuff.
Yeah, it's like really
Damn.
good. But that becomes more editing time.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not that big of a deal, but you want to try to always get as most and as best as you can in one shot, so you don't have to do too much editing.
Yeah.
Like I kept switching back and forth, and I know already that I need to move some of the switching back and forth.
Right.
I'm on you, and then you start talking, and then I'm like, okay, and then I switch back over, and then you start talking. So I'm like, okay, I gotta just there's a couple little parts that you can never get.
Yeah.
When you're shooting.
Right.
It's difficult to know when you're gonna talk and when you're not.
Right. And are you recording on all three? Like, could you, while you're editing, decide how it goes?
Yeah, it's recording all of them at the same time.
Uh-huh.
But when I'm switching it, it's giving me one main one. So
Okay.
I can just take that main recording, and all I have to do is slide the toggles over and say, I want to keep you in frame like 2 more seconds. You just move it over, and it's done.
Wow.
I don't have to
Amazing.
take all the footage and put layers on top, and
Right.
start cutting and editing. I don't do
Yeah.
any of that. I
Wow.
just move them all.
Wow, man. Incredible. What did you think about the show itself, the content? Yeah? You learn anything?
A lot of information. Yeah, I learned a lot of stuff.
So that was a great combo with Brent. We covered a lot of really good sleep insights and applied science and physiology for better sleep. However, there are a couple things, well, there's a lot that we didn't cover, and there's 3 things that I want to make sure I mention before I sign off today. And that's one of the worst things that you can do for sleep. And I say this from a loving place because I know that this can be fun, but make sure you're not bringing your phone in the bedroom. No matter what, don't bring the phone in the bedroom, because even if, as Brent was describing, even if you have the discipline to put it on airplane mode and just let it sit by your bed, your phone represents responsibility. Obviously, if you're an emergency responder or a doctor, you have to keep some kind of phone or some kind of system in your room, and that's just the reality, right? But when you bring your phone in the bedroom, you're introducing stress into an environment that really requires as much parasympathetic activity, so you can derive the greatest benefits from your engagement in this environment. So the point is you want to be as stress-free as possible. You don't want to have any conscious or even subconscious stress. So you don't want to invite any kind of phone, email, responsibility, anything like that into the bedroom. And really the bedroom is for just those 2 things. It's for sleep and making love or having sex, however you want to put it. So if you need an alarm, for example, use an old-fashioned alarm to wake up in the morning. So not only is the blue light and responsibility going to be a problem, but it's also, the doom scrolling and just, wasting away at your dopamine and depleting your dopamine in the morning when you wake up and you have what this when you should enjoy this amazing motivation and energy and, excitement to get ready and embark on an amazing day. If you just sit on your phone or lay on your side, use your phone, you're going to deplete your dopamine. And you're going to wake up feeling stressed and anxious, when instead what you should do is get at least 10 minutes of sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking. And then on the contrary, when you're getting ready for bed at night, no phone, no blue light, no responsibility, winding down. And then Brent was describing how he likes to read or listen to books before bed. That is really helpful, but try to make sure you stick to fiction. So nice storytelling style books that really put you in this state of imagination. You don't want to be learning anything before bed or, learning about business or learning a new skill, because it's going to keep your brain working and that's going to keep you up at night. So even though it's a good way to relax for a lot of people, I mean, maybe on the surface level it's relaxing, but it's not going to be the best way to get that deep, efficient sleep so you can actually retain the information and enable that information effectively the next day and in the following days. So, man, do you have any more questions for me regarding sleep that you want me to answer on the show?
You're mentioning about light and dark, like, the sun and dark. You had
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that at night it's really good to have your room completely pitch black.
Yeah.
Like blackout screens and curtains and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then you also mentioned that early in the morning you want to get that sun.
Yeah, great question, man. Yeah, for sure. So that's the thing with blackout curtains is like blackout curtains can really help you achieve that deep sleep because there's no light, therefore you have better accumulation of melatonin. However, in the morning when you wake up, well, the room's going to be pitch black, right? So this is where it really depends on your unique context. And what I'll say is blackout curtains or not, you should strive to get those minimum 10 minutes of direct sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking. That's no sunglasses, exposing as much skin to the light as possible to get, good vitamin D and nitric oxide. So a couple things that you can do. Either invest in blackout curtains that are on a timer. So this would either be like an electric pair of blackout curtains that has a built-in timer, or get one that you can plug into a timing system that then plugs into the wall. Basically, you want to have it so that as the sun comes up, they open up. Obviously, this is a very expensive system. So what you can do alternatively is make it a habit to open up the curtains the second that you wake up. If you wake up before the sun comes up and it's pitch black and you want to prepare your body to naturally wake up around that early time of the day, instead what you can do is turn on as many lights turn on the lights in your house, especially in the bedroom. And you can also pair that with a sun lamp, which is an artificial way to replicate the sun's light while you're at home. So a sun lamp, turning on the lights, if not, opening up the curtains as soon as you wake up. Or you can just stick with the Manta sleep mask or another high-quality, complete blackout, high-quality sleep mask. That's probably the most cost-effective and efficient way, so that as soon as you wake up, whether it's with an alarm or not, you take them off, and now you get the sunlight. So does that answer your question? Yeah.
But I do feel that when I listen to that bilateral music, I'm done.
Right, so your sleep latency is reduced. You fall asleep more quickly. Do you wake up feeling more refreshed as well?
It depends. Usually I do feel like I got more sleep.
Really?
Able to wake up earlier, get to work at an earlier time, or sometimes even hit the gym. And
Yeah.
I feel refreshed. Sometimes I do.
Wow.
But I do have a problem with trying to go to sleep at night, so I always think about that.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. Like I hadn't heard about this before, but in theory, it makes complete sense. You know what I do when I'm overthinking before bed? I will do all the strategies that I mentioned here today, like the breath work and the light and whatever. But what helps me a lot is taking L-theanine, which is a supplement. It's an amino acid that has a very calming effect, and it puts you in a bit of a dissociative state and leads to what's called the fragmentation of thought. So it can actually break up your thought pattern and put you in this really nice and relaxed state. So it has an effect similar to this stuff, and it's widely known and recognized as a very powerful sleep aid. You can also consider taking something like apigenin, which is GABAergic. Apigenin is a derivative of chamomile. You know how people take chamomile for sleep? Apigenin is like the molecule that actually does that. And so you can take that as well. And then as far as the music, I mean, that sounds like I said, like in theory, that sounds great. That sounds like it's effective. However, what I know from the research that has been proven to be effective is listening to white noise or pink noise, which is like this like kind of steady frequency. I don't know scientifically how or why it works so well, but I know that it is well established to help promote sleep. I think technically having like a candle flickering, it does that at a frequency that is also helps put you in a brainwave state that is like good for sleep. There's a lot of like ways that you can manipulate sounds to like facilitate sleep, but I haven't heard of that one before. Seems like it would be, like I said, in theory, very effective because it distracts you, but like in a productive way for sleep. That's very interesting, man. Wow. Well, and I'll tell you guys what. Whoever's still tuning in, if you guys want to get all this sleep info and all these insights in a more concise way, if you want to read about it, I actually am sending out a PDF like ebook. It's like 100 pages of like all the best sleep science. You don't have to read it all, but it will summarize a lot of the key concepts that we cover here today. I'm actually launching that this week, so coincidentally lines up with this podcast. And if you guys want to learn about that, go to the knowyourphysio.org website, knowyourphysio.org. Sign up for the newsletter, and you're automatically going to get this PDF. Or you can send me an email, Andrés at knowyourphysio.org, or DM me at Andrés Preschel, ANDRESPRESCHEL. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any more questions and if there's anything else I can do to help. Sleep tight.